Allison.
All right, back at home here, moving on to politics. President Obama already raking in a whopping $86 million for his re-election campaign and the Democratic Party. And now the chairman of the House Oversight Committee is looking into whether the president broke the law to get some of that cash. In a letter to the White House, Darrell Issa is questioning whether President Obama is, quote, aggressively using the White House itself and federal employees within the executive office of the president to solicit donations, end quote. So let's bring in Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's also the host of Fox Business Network's Freedom Watch. Hi, Judge.
Hello, Allison.
All right, let's start with the question of the president using the backdrop of the White House for some campaign ads. Is that illegal?
It is not illegal. In fact, the legislation that prohibits the use of federal property and the use of federal personnel for partisan political purposes expressly exempts the president and the vice president. Allison, it goes back to the FDR years. FDR argued privately, not publicly, since he was confined to a wheelchair, it would be very difficult for him to get out of the White House in order to make some phone calls. Publicly, he argued, good politics is good government. He got his way. When the law was enacted, it does not apply to the president and the vice president. So the president can use his Oval Office to call up a contributor and say, would you send some money to my campaign fund? The issue arises is when the president uses other federal employees to assist him. And that's what Congressman Issa is looking at, because those employees are not exempted from the statute that prohibits partisan political activity.
Okay, but it also looks like Congressman Issa is looking into this meeting that happened in March in the White House between the president and some business leaders that was arranged by the Democratic National Committee, and some say was sort of a cover for campaign contributions. Is that illegal?
Well, that's a very touchy question, because it would depend upon whether federal resources were used, and they probably were. These people walked on the driveway to the White House. The federal employees who guard the White House opened the doors, checked their security, and let them in. So it would depend upon how technical Congressman Issa and his colleagues want to be. Generally speaking, if it is a ministerial act like opening the door, checking credentials, that would not be a violation of the Hatch Act. But if the people who opened the door and checked the credentials said, by the way, leave a check for the president's re-election campaign with me on the way out, then of course that would be a violation of the statute.
Okay, good to know. Meanwhile, here's what the White House says in its defense. They say they're not doing anything differently than what their predecessors did. In fact, George W. Bush, President Bill Clinton, that they both invited top fundraisers to the White House as well. Does the precedent explanation help answer some of Congressman Issa's questions?
Yes, it does, because Congressman Issa is not a prosecutor with a grand jury looking to indict. He's an investigator or the head of a committee that is investigating for the Congress. And so whoever testifies before him will remind him of recent history. Look, he may have something here. There may be people whose names and faces are unknown to us who have inappropriately assisted the president, or they may have just done these so-called ministerial things. And Congressman Issa is absolutely entitled to find out who they are and what they did. But as for the president himself, bringing people to the White House and asking them to vote for him and contribute to his campaign, all of his modern-day predecessors back to FDR did the very same thing.
Well, you make it sound so simple. Perhaps this will be a short investigation.
We'll see.
Judge